I'm here to talk to you guys about some real news. Unfortunately, there's a lot of nonsensical news out there clouding the airwaves, which is probably why this is not getting the attention that it deserves. But today, the U.S. military has been launching major airstrikes against the Houthis in Yemen. And personally, I have mixed feelings about this. I don't want the U.S. getting involved in more conflicts. I don't want more endless wars. I don't want more endless violence. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of America thrusting itself in the middle of every conflict on earth. However, the Houthis in Yemen have been a problem for a while. A problem that we should have nipped in the bud months ago, over a year ago. If you have been subbed to my channel for a while, then you probably saw the videos that I made about this situation back when it first started, when the Houthis were taking over ships, they were taking over cargo ships, launching drones at the U.S. Navy, all types of stuff. Now, all of those things have still been happening. They didn't get much media coverage. They still aren't getting much media coverage. But the Houthis have kind of shut down a lot of the travel through the Red Sea. Okay? And Biden largely did nothing about it, which emboldened them. It emboldened them to take over more ships, to just do whatever they wanted in the region. Well, now, of course, we have a different president. A president that's not going to be putting up with some of the stuff that the last administration put up with. So early on in Trump's second term, he's going ahead and trying to nip this problem in the bud before it gets worse. But as I said, I still have mixed feelings about it. On one hand, I understand why this is somewhat necessary because of all the problems the Houthis have been causing, problems that are only going to get worse, and it's better to tackle a problem now before it becomes a bigger problem. So I understand all of that. But also, I'm still somewhat reserved because I just don't want to get involved in more conflicts, and it looks like that's what's going to happen. Because I'm sure the Houthis are going to do something to answer for what is done today, and then we'll retaliate even harder. And of course, we just wiped out one of the heads of ISIS just yesterday or the day before. So I'm not saying that these are bad things, but these are things that are going to cause more conflicts in a day and age where I thought that the point was to move away from these conflicts. America first. Stop all the foreign intervention. Stop intervening in all of these foreign conflicts. Yet, right now, I can spot a couple of different conflicts that looks like we're about to just dive headfirst into. And you can make the argument that we've been involved in these conflicts all along, and you wouldn't be wrong there. But I'm saying that it looks like we are about to take things up a notch. Especially if you look at the airstrikes that are taking place literally as we speak. Like, this is a pretty big deal. Okay? These aren't, your everyday average airstrikes that you forget you even happened. No. This is happening on kind of, I don't want to make it bigger than what it is, but this is happening on a bigger scale than what some people would think. And like I said, right now the strikes are still ongoing, so we don't even know when this is going to end. And when it ends, how are the Houthis going to retaliate? How is Iran going to feel about this? Because we know the Houthis are just a proxy of Iran. So, there are things here to worry about. Because we are living in a very delicate time where all it takes is, one wrong move and all hell breaks loose. And all hell has already been breaking loose. But I'm just hoping that this doesn't boil over to an even more wide-scale conflict. But it has the potential to do so. But I want to go ahead and roll this news clip. Let's listen to what they have to say about this situation. and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
Tomlinson is at the White House for us with the latest on those strikes. Lucas.
John, these are the most significant airstrikes since President Trump returned to the White House, and the first time U.S. jets have struck these Iranian-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen since President Trump returned to the White House. U.S. officials say F-18 Super Hornets from the flight deck of the USS Harry S. Truman were the vanguard of the strikes, along with Air Force fighter jets and drones. President Trump announcing the strikes just a few minutes ago on his Truth Social, saying, quote, today I have ordered the United States military to launch decisive and powerful military action against the Houthi terrorists in Yemen. They have waged an unrelenting campaign of piracy, violence, and terrorism against American and other ships, aircraft, and drones. Joe Biden's response was pathetically weak, so the unrestrained Houthis just kept going. And John, recall, it was just days after taking office, one of President Trump's first executive orders was redesignating the Houthis a foreign terrorist organization after the Biden administration removed them. The State Department made it official earlier this month, marking Houthi leaders ripe for assassination. The targets in today's strikes include air defense systems and missile and drone factories, and also include a strike against one of the Houthis' top missile officers. The Houthis are backed by Iran. Many consider them modern-day Barbary pirates. Since the October 7th massacre, they have launched over 100 attacks against commercial shipping. U.S. warships also came into the crosshairs of the Houthis dozens of times in recent years. The Houthis launched anti-ship ballistic missiles and crewed drones at the American warships. None were successful and all were shot down. And just a few days ago, Houthis leader said attacks would resume against shipping in the Red Sea, and including Israeli ships. Now, General Kurilla, the head of U.S. forces in the Middle East, has been itching to launch these strikes to reopen those vital shipping lanes and destroy Iran's proxy force in Yemen. Kurilla ordered Truman, the U.S. Navy aircraft carrier, back to the Red Sea late last month to be prepared to launch these strikes, and those Super Hornets, as you can see there. Now, last month, the Houthis launched surface-to-air missiles at an Air Force F-16 orbiting overhead, as well as an American Reaper drone. And, John, it's not just in Yemen where U.S. forces have been engaged. Last night, President Trump announced the #2 leader in ISIS had been killed in an American drone strike. We have some video footage, as you can see there. That happened in western Iraq yesterday. And, John, these airstrikes against the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels were meant to send a message to Tehran as well, to stop their support of the Houthi rebels. Of course, that's where these missiles and drones that the Houthis fire at commercial ships and U.S. warships come from. I'll also read a little more from President Trump's lengthy statement on Truth Social. He had a message to the Houthis. It says, quote, "Your time is up and your attacks must stop starting today. If they don't, hell will rain down upon you like never before. And to Iran, support for the Houthi terrorists must end immediately." And President Trump said he won't be nice about it, John.
You're a Navy veteran, Lucas. I know that during the Biden administration, the Navy said it was basically more engaged in seaborne operations than at any time since, I think, World War II. Do I have that right? And is this
That's correct,
kind of
John.
intended to put an end to that kind of thing on the part of the Houthis?
That's right, John. Multiple times U.S. warships came under ballistic missile attack in the Red Sea and off the coast of Yemen in the Gulf of Aden. And just for context, that has never happened in world history. Ballistic missiles have never been launched at U.S. warships before. Thankfully, they were all shot down. But that was always a concern in the Pentagon. What if those missiles gets through? It was notable in President Biden, in his farewell address, he talked about U.S. forces not being engaged in combat. And if you looked at the Navy press release when the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower strike group returned from the Red Sea, they talked about hundreds of bombs being dropped against the Houthis, dozens of surface-to-air missiles from those Super Hornets shooting down those crewed drones that are flying overhead. There was also an issue of cost. You know, these interceptor missiles launched from the guided missile destroyers and cruisers in the strike group, John, those missiles cost millions of dollars, shooting down what were, in essence, flying lawnmowers launched from the Houthis, very crude drones, just, $50,000 or so in cost. And the fact that these shipping lanes, vital shipping lanes that are needed for commerce, for the oil trade, have been essentially shut down since the October 7th massacre, commercial ships having to take that long journey around Africa, certainly adding to the cost. So certainly there's an economic message here with these strikes against the Houthis today. And by the way, John, these strikes could go on for a number of days. That's not immediately clear.
Right, because I read that one of the goals is to target their weapons storage facilities, which are reportedly deep underground. So they're going to be using those bunker busters and probably repeatedly to try to get to those warehouses that are essentially buried.
Right, and it's notable, John, those Super Hornets carry 2,000-pound JDAM satellite-guided bombs. Those are not bunker busters, so if you needed those, you probably have to call in something heavier, some B-52 bombers, perhaps a B-2 bombers. We saw that one time during the Biden administration, B-2s launching from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. But certainly this is a powerful message being sent. You know, you also have Tomahawk cruise missiles aboard those guided missile destroyers in the Truman Strike Group. We didn't hear about any Tomahawk strikes today, but certainly there's more firepower in the area if called upon. A
powerful message being sent not only to the Houthis, but as you say, to Iran as well, Lucas.
There's no question, John. President Trump recently sent a letter to the Ayatollah saying Iran needs to end its nuclear enrichment program, stop in this path toward what many in the intelligence community say is a path to a nuclear bomb. The Israelis have been itching to strike the Iranians so far. While the Trump administration has voiced its support for such an operation, President Trump has said he wants to end this diplomatically. That's why he sent that letter, but it was rejected from the Ayatollah. But the Iranians support these Houthi rebels, and so there's no question this is a message being sent to Tehran as well in Sana'a in Yemen.
So I guess the question on everyone's mind now is what happens next. Well, if these airstrikes are effective and they actually struck the targets that they wanted to strike, then it would severely cripple and handicap the Houthis' ability to respond. You know, we're not just dropping bombs on random locations. No, we're striking strategic locations. So, if the U.S. military did their job effectively, we have probably by now, like I said, at the time of this recording, the airstrikes are still happening. We're kind of waiting on the smoke to clear still to get more details. But if these strikes are effective, then most likely we have severely crippled their, ability to respond. But nonetheless, they will respond. They will retaliate, maybe against ships that sail through the area, and even more likely, they're going to retaliate against U.S. soldiers that are stationed throughout the Middle East. But that's nothing new. That's something that we've been watching happening for a long time. I might not report on it every single day, but I've made plenty of videos about the topic, okay? So over the coming days and the coming hours, U.S. troops stationed throughout the Middle East will be targeted by drone strikes and things of that nature. Here's the big difference. You see, when these retaliations and these strikes against U.S. troops stationed in the Middle East, when these attacks were happening under Joe Biden, not much was done about it. We have a completely different president and administration now. You can either hate Trump or you can like Trump. That's not the point of this video. But hate him or love him, you have to acknowledge that he's the type of person that's going to respond. You can hate it or you can love it. But if our troops are attacked in the Middle East, and they will be after this, then Trump is not the type of guy that's just going to sit by and allow that. No, he's going to crank things up a notch again. So that's the scary part for me. Because I don't want this to drag us into a bigger, deeper conflict that lasts for years and years and years. But this has the potential to do that. I'm not saying it's a good thing to ignore when your enemies are striking your soldiers and to not respond. I'm not saying that's a good thing. But with Trump in office, he's going to respond for a fact. And what will come after that? You know what I mean? Like, how deep will we be dragged into this conflict if they try to do a tit for tat? You strike today, I'm going to strike tomorrow. Then I'm going to strike. Then I'm going to strike. We know that Trump is not the guy to be playing with when it comes to that. So, if I were the Houthis, I would be very hesitant and very, I don't even know the word to use, but they need to be very careful because they're playing with a totally different animal. in the White House right now. But also, another cause for concern for me is that the warmongers in Washington, D.C., the Democrats and the Republicans, both sides of the aisle, they are war hungry. And a lot of them, they've been salivating, just watering at the mouth, ready to go to war with Iran. Okay? And it's been like that for years. They got Afghanistan, they got Iraq, they want to go in Iran so bad. And the powers behind the scenes that often really run this country when we're given the illusion that someone else is running it, the powers that be behind the scenes, they want war with Iran as well. And they've already been trying to plant these little seeds in Trump's mind for months now about a potential war with Iran. Remember when the Butler, Pennsylvania rally, Thomas Matthew Crooks, they tried to claim that he was working with Iran? They tried to claim it was Iran that had all of these assassination plots. We know that was BS. It was obvious BS, but it's BS that they've been putting in Trump's mind for months now. Because they want to use, how can I put this? They want to use Trump against himself, basically. They know ways that they can maybe try to manipulate Trump into doing things, right? They're basically trying to play Trump. They're trying to play into his ego to get him to do their bidding. That's the way I look at this. Because they know that Trump is quick to act. They know that Trump is not the president that's going to lie down and just allow the Houthis to take over ships in the Red Sea. He's not going to allow the Houthis to just send drones striking our soldiers in Iraq and in this place and that place. They know that very well, and they could use that to their advantage to get what they want. And what they want is war with Iran. And there's a possibility that they get it. But I'm hoping they don't. I'm hoping that these airstrikes were effective today. We could cripple the Houthis and we don't have to worry about this for a while. But we know how the world works. More is going to come of this. And when it does, we'll talk about that in future videos. For right now, though, let me know your thoughts about all of this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all very soon in the next one.